Hello, I'm Musa Touré, and I will be presenting my Webscraper project using Selenium and Python. I'm going to have it running in the background while I explain it to you. So, we're importing the Selenium tools to be able to connect, in order to be able to open up a web browser, connect to a website, and begin to manipulate the website and extract data from it. And we import Pandas because we are collecting the data into a data table, and that's what Pandas will be used for. So to begin, we initialize the Selenium WebDriver in order to be able to use Firefox as the primary web browser and access the website bulbagarden.net, which a website I chose because of my familiarity with the website itself. It's a wiki that has a series of characters, creatures, Pokemon, and essentially every page is structured identically, which allows for easy pulling of the data via code. And so, as you saw earlier, Firefox opened, the window was maximized. This was the initializing the wait function. After some testing, I found that 20 seconds was the right amount of time to wait for a page to load in order to check information on the page. And then we go through these steps here. So what is going on here is that after Firefox opened and bulbagarden.net is open, it clicks on Bulbapedia, this website here, the Wikipedia that I mentioned. It waits for the pages to load. Through these waits until visibility and element located, specifically the links involved. Right now, it's looking for the Pokedex link, and then it looks for the list of Pokemon by national Dex number, which is a reasonably ordered list to pull from. Originally, I was planning on using this table here, but I found that I did not have enough information for the project, and so what I had to do next was look for text containing this Pokemon's name here and click the link, the very first Pokemon. And from here, because every page is structured the same, the Selenium driver can pull information from the page that I'm looking for and then click the next button, which you see here at the end of the while loop. So after clicking onto Bulbasaur, we initialize this function here, get Pokedex, which uses a table, a count, and a total. Total is how many of these Pokemon that we want to add into our table. I was originally going to do 150, but I decided to expand the parameters to do more test cases to see if anything occurred, any errors happened. And there were a few. Turns out going through this many pages at once causes some pages to take longer to load than others, which is why I had to expand to 20 seconds as opposed to 5 or 10. And so once each page is loaded, essentially what happens is that the WebDriver will search through the page to make sure that the table of contents here under the ID TOC and the info box here, which has the CSS selector here, are available and can be clicked. So once I initialize an info box finder, we look for specific elements within it. The first one being the name up here in the large bold text, big B as it says there, and then the XPath for the Dex number, which is right here. And then I have a function here that strips and then I have not there. And then I have a process here that strips the pound sign out of the number to make it easier for to be used in a data table format. Next, it looks for the type. Each Pokemon has 1 to 2 types, thus not that one. And thus it's an item down here in this box that's easy to pull from using just using the XPath, and in case the Pokemon does not have a second type, we use this XPath and check to see if it's there. If it isn't, then we put in none. If it is, then we send it into the table. Next items are height and weight, which are in every single info box. Main issue here was that because not every Pokemon has more than one ability, it changes the size of the box so that the type and abilities boxes are right next to each other, meaning that the structure of the table is different, which means it's not the same on every single page, which is why I had to get creative and use the searching for the elements TD for the tables as cell, and looking it up via space M for in meters for height and space kg kilograms for weight. We remove the M and K and kg because those will be added into the table, and we convert them into floats because they are initially pulled as strings. Next step, we grab the Pokemon's category here, and then we remove the word Pokemon and remove the spaces in order to be able to just have it be the category. In this case, seed, and then in other ones, it's beetle, boxing, woolly crab, etc., etc. And then after that, this looks for generation because each Pokemon debuts in a specific generation. What we do is that we look at the main page. The first line will always mention which generation the Pokemon is introduced in, and so we search a generation. It's always going to be the first line. Remove generation, and then we use this function here in order to replace the Roman numeral with a Arabic numeral, which we typically use in most programs. Next, the next thing is that we get a little bit more information on the Pokemon themselves, specifically stat information, health, speed, special attack, etc., down further here in their own distinct table. So it waits for the elements to load, but it specifically looks for HP within this table. Originally, I was going to use the table of contents to click down to this page because, well, as mentioned before, not every page is going to have the same amount of tables in the exact same locations. So using the CSS selector XPath would be pointless because they just don't have individual IDs to search them by. And so that's why I used the text specifically in order to find them. And so these next few look at the text box and looks for the integer value for that stat, and we add it into their own variables, and all those get compiled into a list that is then appended to the table to become part of the final spreadsheet. This sentinel here is used in conjunction with the counter to make sure that we are getting the appropriate amount of Pokemon, and the program will actually end correctly. Because the very last page, the very last Pokemon, does not have a next button in its page. So I need the sentinel to essentially confirm that we have reached the end. That way we can skip this step and not have the program hang because the element it's searching for is not there. And so once we run the get Pokedex function, we end the driver's capabilities, which is why Firefox just closed. I initiate some column titles here, and then I use Pandas to turn the table of data that we just created, add the title of the columns, and then for fun, while there is the base stat total here on the page, of all the stats, which is essentially the sum of all of these, I decided to demonstrate some knowledge of pandas and use it to add up the sets that the columns that we've already established, and then add them all together and create a brand new column called base stat total. And then we use dtable to CSV to print that, to turn that into a CSV file that we can find right here. And of course, obviously, I have it print out the table just to make sure everything is kosher. And so yeah, here's the CSV table, and that is my project and how it scripts websites, the issues I had, and how everything works. Thank you very much.